Something rare is happening at the highest level of global policies. A long-standing price, a frozen island, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, a rising, trade tension are now tied together in a way that is quietly shaking trust between allies, and the full meaning is now starting to unfold. In mid-January 2026, a new dispute began to grow between the United States of America and several European countries. The center of the issue was actually Greenland, yes, so a large Arctic, island with a small population and major strategic value.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Greenland, a land where silence roars and nature rules. This is the world's largest island, wrapped in ice, mystery, and raw beauty. Towering glaciers, endless fjords, and skies that explode with the northern lights make Greenland feel almost otherworldly. Covering a massive 2.16 million square kilometers, Greenland is one of the biggest places on Earth, yet one of the least populated. The capital city, Nuuk, blends colorful Nordic buildings with dramatic mountain and ocean views. Modern life standing strong at the edge of the Arctic. Greenland uses the Danish krone as its currency and operates under a self-governing.
The situation became public after a media interview and a set of official messages were released.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not, because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor.
On January 19, 2026, US President Donald Trump spoke in an interview and linked his recent actions toward Greenland to his disappointment over not receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. He said that after not being awarded the prize, he no longer thought purely of peace, yes, and would instead focus on what he believed was best for the United States of America.
US President Donald Trump says he no longer thinks purely of peace. In a letter obtained by Reuters, Trump told Norway's Prime Minister he no longer feels obligated to prioritize peace after failing to win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America.
These words actually drew wide, attention because they connected a global peace award to a major territorial and trade dispute. Now, guess what? Around the same time, ladies and gentlemen, the government of Norway released text messages sent earlier by President Trump to the Prime Minister of Norway. In those messages, President Trump said Norway did not actually award him the Nobel Peace Prize for what he described as having stopped 8 consecutive different wars. Okay, he added that this decision changed how he viewed peace-related choices. The release of these messages helped confirm the link between the price decision and his public position. Now, let's go deeper into this. The Nobel Peace Prize for 2025 had already been awarded to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. Okay, the award was actually decided by the Norwegian Nobel Committee, which operates independently from government. These decisions meant President Trump did not actually receive the prize he had openly supported himself for. Yes, so at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump renewed his push for the United States to gain control over Greenland. He questioned Denmark's ability to protect the island and said global security will actually require the United States to have complete and total control of Greenland. Yes, so he did not actually say whether military forces will be used, okay, but he warned of economic actions if talks failed. Yes, so this early statement set the stage for rising concern across Europe. Trade ties, security trust, and of course alliance unity were suddenly linked to both Greenland and of course the Nobel Peace Prize, creating a complex and sensitive situation. Before we continue, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course turn on notifications. This helps us share calm and of course global clear news with more people. Thank you so much for your support like this. Okay, so as the story moved forward, ladies and gentlemen, more actors became involved. Denmark, which governs Greenland, strongly rejected the idea of selling or giving up the territory. Denmark's foreign minister responded with a clear message saying, and I quote, "You can trade with people, but you don't treat people. Yes, this is what he said. So this statement actually showed Denmark's firm position that Greenland is not a commodity, yes, or a product. So Greenland's own leadership also spoke. The Prime Minister of Greenland said the island must decide its own future and will not be pressured. Yes, he also stressed dialogue, respect, and of course international law. These comments actually highlighted that Greenland is not just a strategic location but also home to about 57,000 people with their own voice. So President Trump also warned that if no agreement was actually reached, the United States will actually impose tariffs, starting February 1. The tariffs will target Denmark and several other European countries, including Sweden, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Finland, Britain, and Norway. These steps raised fears of another trade conflict similar to the one seen in 2025. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Now, guess what? European leaders reacted with caution. The European Union began preparing possible responses, including tariffs on large amounts of U.S. imports or the use of a legal tool designed to counter economic pressure. Yes, so markets reacted with concern and industries worried about new instability. So meanwhile, defense officials in Denmark confirmed that troops will land in Western Greenland as part of a planned Arctic military exercise. So this was actually described as a routine, but the timing added to the public attention. So ladies and gentlemen, all of these moves showed why the situation mattered. A dispute over Greenland was no longer just about territory. It now involved trade, alliance, trust, and the emotional weight of an international peace award. Yes, so all unfolding at the same time. To fully understand the situation, it helps to look at the Nobel Peace Prize event that followed on January 16, 2026, just days before the Greenland comment escalated. Ladies and gentlemen, President Donald Trump met at the White House with Venezuela's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado. Yes, if I actually get the name correct. So now, during his meeting, ladies and gentlemen, Maria Corina Machado gave her Nobel Peace Prize medal to President Trump. Okay.
Did you offer to President Trump your Nobel Peace Prize?
I presented the President of the United States the medal of the Nobel Peace Prize, and I told him this. Listen to this. 200 years ago, General Lafayette gave Simón Bolívar a medal with George Washington's face on it. Bolívar since then kept that medal for the rest of his life. Actually, when you see his portraits, you can see the medal there. And it was given by General Lafayette as a sign of the brotherhood between the United States, people of the United States, and the people of Venezuela.
Yesterday you accepted Maria Machado's Nobel Prize medal. What do you intend to do with it, and why would you want someone else's Nobel Prize?
Well, she offered it to me. I thought it was very nice. She said, you've ended 8 wars, and nobody deserves this prize more than in history than you do. And I thought it was a very nice gesture. And by the way, I think she's a very fine woman, and we'll be talking again.
A White House official confirmed that President Trump planned to keep the medal. Later that day, President Trump wrote on social media that the medal was actually presented as a sign of mutual respect and recognition of his efforts. Now, Maria Corina Machado, described the meeting as excellent. She said the medal was actually meant to recognize President Trump's commitment to the freedom of the Venezuelans people. Now, the White House later released a photo of President Trump holding the medal in a gold-colored frame, calling it a personal symbol of gratitude. Yes, this is what actually happened, ladies and gentlemen, officially. Now, the Nobel Peace Prize itself remains with Maria Corina Machado. The Norwegian Nobel Institute made clear that the prize cannot be transferred, shared, or taken back. Only the physical medal was given as a personal gift to President Trump of US. So this meeting happened after President Trump had openly expressed anger about not receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. He had spoken publicly about deserving it and reacted strongly when the award went to Machado instead. Yes. So at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, that the United States was actually involved in major developments in Venezuela. US forces had captured the former Venezuelan president earlier in the month. Remember, okay? So now Machado, okay, who had fled Venezuela by sea in December, was seeking a role in the country's future leadership. So President Trump, however, said she did not actually have enough support to govern in the short term. So these details added balance to the story. The Nobel Medal gifts, the Greenland dispute, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, the truth threats were not isolated moments. They were part of a wider period where peace awards, power, and of course, national interests were closely connected. Looking ahead, this situation shows how symbolic actions can affect real-world relations. A Peace Prize decision, a gifted medal, and a strong public statement all played a role in shaping diplomatic behavior. Allies began to reassess trust, whilst leaders called for calm and of course dialogue. So European officials said they prefer talks over conflicts. Leaders from Norway and Germany plans to speak with President Trump for United States of America during an international forum to ease tensions. Britain's Prime Minister also urged calm discussions, saying he did not actually believe military actions was being considered. Okay, so this is real, yes, and official. So from the US side, ladies and gentlemen, the Treasury Secretary said Greenland should be viewed as a strategic asset and denied that actions were driven by the Nobel Prize. This shows that different explanations were being offered at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, what remains clear is that Greenland's future, Europe's trade stability, and the meaning of global awards are now linked in public discussion. The outcome will depend on dialogue, legal processes, and of course, respect for international norms. This situation, ladies and gentlemen, also offers deeper lessons that go beyond politics. It shows how personal feelings, global symbols, and of course, national power can mix in ways that affect millions of people far from the decision rooms. A peace prize meant to honor calm and dialogue became part of a wider dispute, involving trade, land, and security. This reminds us that, ladies and gentlemen, symbols carry weight, but they do not replace laws, borders, and of course, shared rules. Another lesson is the importance of restraints. Strong words spoken in public can actually move markets, worry families, and of course, shake trust between long-time partners or allies. Once spoken, ladies and gentlemen, these words cannot be taken. Yes, so this is why diplomacy often depends not only on strength, but also on patience, listening, and careful dialogue. The event also highlights the voice of smaller communities, ladies and gentlemen. Greenland's people, though few in numbers, let me put it that way, were clear that their future should not be decided by pressure from outside powers like Donald Trump for US or United States of America. Their position reflects a broader principle in global affairs. People are not objects. And of course, land is not just a prize. Respect for self-choice remains central to peace. Yeah. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, this moment shows that peace is not defined by medals or titles. It is actually shaped every day by choices, tone, and respect for others. Long-term stability grows when leaders focus on calm solutions, shared interests, and of course, mutual understanding, even during disagreement, ladies and gentlemen. Now, permit me to thank you humbly and respectfully for watching this particular video to this length. Okay, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, okay, and turn on notifications for more calm and clear world news like this.